Mercury raises $200 million at $5.2 billion valuation. Investors are betting that Mercury can finally turn its deposit base into a lending engine. That move would directly squeeze the margins on treasury products from Brex and Ramp over the next 2 quarters. Sequoia and A16Z joining the round adds pressure on them to defend their own startup banking plays. The capital gives them room to hire risk teams fast. Watch for embedded credit lines by early next year that could pull high-growth companies away from traditional lenders. Intuit cuts 17% of global workforce. Intuit's move signals that even mature software companies are prioritizing margin over growth in the current environment. Most of the reductions target the seasonal support layers built for TurboTax peaks. The remaining teams must now absorb enterprise feature development without added headcount. This forces Intuit to lean harder on automation inside QuickBooks, which could raise churn among accountants who rely on dedicated support. Competitors like Xero gain a window to capture those mid-market users over the next year. Viktor secures $75 million Series A led by Excel. Series A checks this size used to be rare outside consumer apps. Viktor can now fund 2 years of runway without another raise, which changes how it negotiates with early enterprise customers on contract length. Excel leading suggests they see a clear path to category leadership. The extra capital also lets them open a European office before summer and double the product team. Watch for incumbents to respond with their own acquisitions in the same space within 18 months. Quartermaster raises $43 million Series A. First round's participation at this stage shows they are doubling down on vertical SaaS plays again. Quartermaster gets enough capital to build integrations with the major ERP systems before the next funding window closes. That timeline puts pressure on older vendors to open their own APIs faster than planned. The round size also gives them headroom to acquire a small data startup if needed. Expect procurement teams to see more competitive bids on workflow automation by mid-next year. Primer closes $100 million Series C round. Primer's latest round comes at a time when most Series C deals are shrinking, not growing. The company now has the resources to expand its sales force into new verticals ahead of any IPO timeline. This puts direct pressure on public peers who have to justify their own growth rates in the same categories. The capital also accelerates international expansion plans already in motion. Watch their gross margins if Primer starts discounting to win enterprise logos over the coming quarters. Text raises $11.5 million Lego Series A for process tools. Factories across Belgium still log production steps on clipboards and shared spreadsheets after all these years. Fresh Capital now moves that workflow from monthly reviews into sensors that flag issues the same hour. The maps slot directly into existing PLC controllers without new hardware installs. Plant managers catch bottlenecks the day they appear instead of waiting for quarter-end reports. SAP must add comparable live alerts to its own modules before mid-2025 or lose the compliance dashboard business to faster tools. Aurora Mobile launches semiconductor alert solution. Chip fabs lose millions every hour a single process drifts out of spec. The new alert system keeps production data inside the factory perimeter rather than routing it through external cloud dashboards. Yield engineers receive deviation notices without leaking recipe details outside internal networks. Foundries will now require that same isolation from every equipment vendor they use. This forces providers like Siemens to ship on-premise alert modules within 18 months or lose fab monitoring contracts. This changes contract terms on data residency first. Scapia raises $63 million in travel fintech round. Most travel fintechs still chase gross bookings volume, while the durable margin hides inside currency spreads and late payments. This round gives enough runway to secure banking ties across 3 additional corridors by year-end. Cardholders receive instant multi-currency settlement instead of the 3-day holds that still plague rival products. Existing players must match settlement speed inside the next 12 months or lose frequent travelers the first time they book abroad. Issuers without real-time FX tooling will feel the churn first. Bedrock Ocean Exploration closes Series A. Deep sea mapping still depends on ships that cost more to operate than the data they return. Fresh funding supports autonomous crawlers that remain submerged for weeks at a time. Research groups will now demand persistent monitoring contracts over single survey trips. Traditional firms must retrofit their vessels with similar endurance tech or watch the recurring data business move elsewhere. Vessel operators without long-stay capability lose the edge on multi-month projects. Remarkable secures Series A for IT services. IT services scale-ups usually add bodies faster than they add process discipline. The capital now goes toward productizing delivery playbooks rather than simply staffing additional projects. Enterprise buyers start auditing whether vendors run standardized workflows or still depend on tribal knowledge. Larger consultancies have 12 months to codify their own methods or risk losing repeatable work to teams that measure cycle times. Buyers notice the difference on the second or third engagement. Eli Health lands Series A for wellness platform. Term sheets like this one often hide the real negotiation over patient data ownership rather than headline valuation. Eli now controls longitudinal wellness signals that insurers have wanted for years. Within 12 months, that access will push competitors like Neum to either match the data licensing terms or pull back from employer contracts entirely. The real test comes when hospitals start demanding similar feeds for their own patient programs. Failure here turns it into another data provider. Apis Point Energy raises Series A for energy tech. Old-school operators just gained a new lever against their service providers. Apis Point's tools target hidden inefficiencies in extraction workflows that traditional consultants have long ignored. Halliburton will have to decide whether to build competing features in-house or license the stack before its largest clients start mandating the upgrade in upcoming tenders. Field data from the first deployments already shows double-digit reductions in downtime. That benchmark will force other providers to disclose their own metrics or lose bids. Nucleus Software reports Q4 results and dividend. Shareholders get the payout, yet the real signal sits in how maintenance contracts held up against rupee volatility. Nucleus now has room to fund overseas expansion without diluting existing owners. That move will compel competitors such as Tata Elxsi to accelerate their own dividend policies or risk losing institutional backing in the next 2 quarters. Smaller vendors without similar cash reserves face an even steeper climb to retain key accounts. Expect 2 mid-tier firms to explore sales before year-end. Irish startups secure €35 million in 2025 funding. Local business incubators delivered the capital, but the real story lies in how few of those companies plan to stay headquartered in Ireland after Series B. That pattern will force Enterprise Ireland to tie future grants to local hiring commitments or watch talent and IP migrate to London and Berlin within 18 months. The next budget round will reveal whether officials accept that trade-off. Founders have already started comparing term sheets from both sides of the Irish Sea. Decharge shifts EV charging to local discovery model. Most EV drivers still fail to locate working chargers in real time. Decharge's shift puts location data ahead of new hardware installs, a reversal from the build it and they will come approach. ChargePoint must now integrate similar discovery layers or see its utilization rates drop in urban markets over the coming year. Grid operators will notice the change first through uneven load patterns across city blocks. That imbalance could accelerate regulatory pressure on cities to standardize data sharing. CloudRevel launches managed Laravel hosting. Teams that outgrew shared hosting now face a clearer choice between raw VPS and full platform lock-in. The 24/7 support tier targets exactly those migrations. Expect Laravel Forge to respond with bundled monitoring within the next year or watch its market share slip among agencies. True Data details PE versus VC funding differences. Most comparison charts stop at IRR tables. True Data's breakdown instead highlights how PE's governance demands change founder equity retention after year 3. The overlooked detail is liquidation preference stacking. Any startup eyeing both paths should model that term first before the round closes. Nuclear Software reappoints MD for 5 years. Boards rarely commit 5 years ahead unless the current leader controls the key customer relationships. The extension aligns with a push into core banking upgrades for regional banks. Rivals lose the usual hope of an internal shakeup disrupting that sales cycle. WeGrow app updates stock alert features. Retail traders already juggle 3 apps for execution, charts, and news. Routing insights through WhatsApp reduces that friction, but raises questions about data latency during earnings releases. Broker platforms now need equivalent push channels, or they hand over daily engagement to the messaging layer. Travel fintech sees 5 to 6x booking growth post-raise. Booking spikes after a raise usually trace back to subsidized user acquisition. The next 6 quarters will show whether those flyers stick once incentives normalize. Existing travel fintechs face a choice: match the new reward structure or accept share loss on premium routes.